Hello, everybody. My name is Kamora, and today we'll be reviewing our 10th episode of Season 2 of Bubble Guppies. Season 2, Episode 10. Check it out. In this episode, Gil has lost his library card, and all the Guppies proceed to look for it while learning all about libraries and books. Now, this episode, I really do like it. Okay, don't get me wrong. I like it. But when it comes to the whole topic, I kind of struggle to go on board. For those of you who don't know, I mean, if you've seen my episode review on my main channel of The Mask Retriever, I struggle with dyslexia and I struggle to really get myself into books and topics like that. You know, it's a bit of a struggle. But with this episode, what I will appreciate for it is that it makes this episode makes reading fun. Like when I really try to read a book, when I really try to read a book, I mainly try and go for like picture books, things that like stand out. My favorite type of books were like when I was younger, they didn't really have that much words, that have more pictures. It was like the I Spy books, Where's Waldo, um and coloring books. I know coloring books, even though they're books, not like literature books, they're more of like creativity type of books. I'm more of a picture book type of girl, not much more of a like a reading type. I really do try. I try over the summer. I do try and get some help for it. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna give up. I promise you, I'm gonna try. I will. But it just takes, for me, it's really hard for me to get on board. But that doesn't mean I don't like this episode. I do love its concept, but at times it's hard, I just get some insecurities from my disabilities, you know? But anyway, our episode starts with Molly swimming to school, and she sees Gil and Bubble Puppy at the library, and she sees Gil reading some books, and says that he has to return them at the library, but he wanted to read them one more time, and he shows her that he was able to check all those books out with his own library card with his name on it. And I also like how the episode teaches kids about like spelling. He even spells his name. Which is really cute. And then when the library is closed, we find out that if you want to bring back a book, there's a drop box, not the app, not the app. And I really like the scene when he's just saying goodbye to his books. It's just so cute. That's why I really appreciate Gil, and for anybody who loves reading that much. Like when they have to return a book, especially from the library, they feel like they're so passionate about it and about the worlds they got to read about and got to experience. Like saying goodbye to it's like you're saying goodbye to that part of your life, that part of the world that you got to know, love, and explore. you know that's why I really appreciate Gil here. I really do. And whenever he gets into his tone about more later on in the episode about his spy books, I get really strong Pablo from the backyard against international super spy type of vibes. More on that later. But yeah, it's really good. And hopefully, and when Gil is talking to Molly, he says that maybe when the library is open again, um we you could try and pick out some more books. And then when they finally get to school, they talk about the library, and Mr. Gripper even shows his library card, and that's when Gil wanted to show his, but then he can't find it. And I like how he dumps out his backpack. Like that's the first thing that we all do whenever we can't find something. We immediately dump it on the floor. We don't care if we make a mess. We just dump it on the floor. That's literally me. Me. And then he's all upset, and he says that what are we gonna do? What are you gonna do? And then Mr. Gruber says, don't worry, we'll go back to the library and find it later, and if we can't find it, we can get you a new one. And his little voice when he says, but I like the one I had. Like, I know it's just a card, but you can tell how much Gil felt passionate, how proud he felt about that card. You can tell that, like, it's not going to be the same. It's not my very first one. It's not the one I had originally. It won't feel the same. Like, I feel for Gil, you know? like for anything, not just like a library card, but like, you know, when I lose something I originally had, let's just say like a piece of jewelry, like a piece of like like an earring of some sort, mostly jewelry. I can relate to jewelry because I had a bad habit of losing my earrings. Like whenever my parents or anybody would tell me, don't worry, if we can't find it, don't worry, we'll try to find it. If we can't find it, then we'll get you a new pair. And I'll be like, but I like the one I had. It won't feel the same. That I felt for Gil in that moment. I did. And we even got to learn some words about like what does borrowing mean, what a librarian is, stuff like that. And then we have the question segment about what you'll find in the library, like where the books, you'll find the books on shelves. You'll have your own library card once again, and also um the librarian and how he or she will help you find a book. And then we have our pop song Check It Out, which I will say it didn't really stick with me, but the melody did, but at least we got to figure out the Guppies book interest. It's except for Una, which I don't know why. Why can't you show my girl what does she like? But we will find out about that later on, along with Dima. But I will say Gil's part in the song stood out to me the most. It did. Whoever his singer is, he sung his heart out, dude. He did. Like, I felt that in that moment. When you listen to like a happy song and then it changes moods real quick. I love songs like that. This is that type of song. And then we have our shop segment with Dima. She's a librarian. She's helping Gobi. Shippers, put your hard eyes down. Because whenever it comes to these two, they always point at the scene. I don't know why. Put your heart eyes down, please. Please. She's just trying to help him find a book. At first, Dima finds a book for Gobi. He wants a book about penguins, but then he says that I want a book about but then Dima finds Gobi a book about cows instead. And then what Dima did to help Gobi find his book, which was really, really clever about like, the different categories and stuff, which I like that, if you're trying to find something, look through categories, First we talk about, she asks specifically, is a penguin a person, a thing, or an animal? Which I really like that. That's really, really good. And then she starts looking for like, the letter P, to find out, different animals that start with a P, which I love that. I love that so much. Alphabetical order. That is, I love anything that's put in alphabetical order. It just makes things simpler, And my teacher, when I was in third grade, taught me a trick. If all the things start with like the same letter at the beginning, and you wanna like sort them out correctly, you always go by the second letter after the first letter. That will help you put them in alphabetical order. If you guys know that trick, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, he's able to find his book about penguins, and it's time for lunch, and Nani got a library juice. Which is really funny. And then we have our Molly and Gil segment. Molly's reading a book about princesses, and then Gil's reading as well. And then so innocently, I thought the scene was so innocent. The little fish go to Gil, and they're like, will you read to us? And then I'm like, oh, that's sweet. For once, they're not getting on his nerve, tricking him. But then they hit him with the water book. And then they laugh at him, swirling water. Like I said, give this kid a break. He's just trying to read with his friend, and y'all come over here. No, don't get me wrong. I have a love and hate relationship with the little fish now as I'm older. But just, come on, bro. Like, he didn't do nothing to you. He didn't trick y'all. Don't y'all get tired? Like, golly. And then Una invites Molly and Gil over to the classroom because they're making their little own books and stuff. And then so cute, Molly and Una says you want to make a book together, which is adorable. And she says that if you write the story, I'll draw the pictures, which is adorable. And then we find out that the person who writes the pictures in the book is the illustrator, and the person that writes the words writes the book is the author, not the aardvark, the actual author. I had to. I'm sorry. I've been waiting to say that this whole review. And then Dima, so surprisingly, she's making an autobiography, which is really, really cute. I feel like out of the whole Guppies, Dima would be the first one to make her own autobiography. Because who wouldn't want to hear about this silly little Guppy and her whole vibe, her whole personality? I will buy 10 copies of those. Thank you very much. I'm not afraid to admit it. And then poor Gil, he's still sad about his library card. But then he starts to perk up a little bit when Mr. Gerber says that we'll be able to get you a new one. And then he starts to perk up a little bit. And then so cute, Dima's little face cut out with her hair inside the book. It's just, did I mention how much I love Dima? And then we have our outside segment, and it's Brave Sail Library, which is Dima and Una, and this story with them in this season is absolutely my favorite. It's absolutely my favorite, and they're going to like an island of the Cyclops, and then Dima, she said the first thing I would say, why are we going there? And then Una says that you could find every book that you could ever want in the world. And when they tell me, when I first thought of the Cyclops and a Nick Jr. show, I thought of Yo Gabba Gabba. Yeah, but Muna will for always be the OG Cyclops to me. Thank you very much. And then, when when they start looking at the books and stuff, they hear the Cyclops coming. And when Demon was like, he's coming, and Muna was like, hide. And then Dima's literally she's hiding already. She's like, I am hiding. These two are a chaotic duo, but that's why I love them for it. Oh my goodness. They're so funny. So then when the Cyclops finally passes them, they was like, we have to get out of here. And then ironically, Dima's the first one who wants to stay a bit longer. When then they start looking at going crazy, they start turning into like people online who be like going crazy over baby animals, and they start seeing all these books. And this scene, it just filled me with delight. I mean, who wouldn't want to stay in a place where it talks about their favorite topic ever? Just these two girls, when they're together, it's like cake and ice cream. When these two are together, it's like cake and ice cream. They're so delectable together. They're so fun, chaotic, cute, calm. Their whole vibe is just amazing. And then when they finish going baby animal crazy, they hear the Cyclops coming again, and then they have to put all the books back. But then Una points out that some of these books aren't right. They don't belong where they put them, because they were such in a rush to hurry up. And then I really like, once again, we have categories again, like where do specific things go, alphabetical order. I like that. And then the Cyclops finally comes, and then he's starting to look for a book on baby cats. And then and then Una points out that he wants the kitty book, and Dima's holding it, and she's like, ooh. And then so calmly, she pulls out her hand up over the car, and she's like, enjoy. And then the Cyclops is like, hey. And then he moves the thing out of the way, and the girls have to get out of there. And then they meet, and then he managed to get there before them outside in front of their ship. And then he's like, kitties. And then Una's like, kitties. And then Dima was like, he wants to eat some kitties. And he's like, and then he actually wants the girls to offers the girls to borrow the cat book, which is really, really sweet, And at the end of the story, he's like, just make sure you return it, which is adorable. Like, I love it. This is one of my favorite Dima and Una stories, not just in the season, but in the series. It's just so cute and adorable. Just so cute. And then we have our pop song. Dance song, which is the book dance. And, it's good. It's good exercise for your wrist and arms. It's pretty fun. And then we have another Molly and Gil segment. Once again, the little fish are at it again. Don't they get tired? And then, because they have Gil, has a book of the desert. And then, so sweet, one of the fish is like, please, we just want to hear a story once. And once again, Gil got tricked. Oh, my poor boy. When he got to the part of the book where he's like, camels can survive in the desert without a single drop of water. Which is honestly a good fact, but Did it really have to be paired with Gilligan squirt of water? Come on now. Jesus Christ. Jesus. And then we finally have our field trip segment, which they finally go to the library and ask the librarian, which her name is Mrs. Huey. Can't think about that without thinking of Donald Duck's nephew. But anyway, he asks, "Do you think if maybe have you seen my library card?" And she says, "No, I haven't." But when she says, "I'm sure it'll turn up eventually." When she's saying that, she's holding one of Gil's books that he brought back to the library. And that's when Gil suggests that maybe his book might have his library card might have gotten in between the pages of the book when he had dropped it off. And that's when my boy goes full Pablo International super spy on the books, trying to find his library card. And we have Miss Huey and Molly communicating to him like this is some agent movie, James Bond type of movie. And then fun fact, in Gil's spy book there's a character named Agent 3 who is actually voiced by Edward Hibbert, who actually voiced Zazu in the original Lion King movie, which is awesome. I love that movie as a kid. And Zazu, I had a love-hate relationship with him. When I was younger, I kept on, oh my god, why is this dude here? Why is he here? But when I got older, he became really enjoyable to me. Yeah, I will say I am a Zazu stan. So yeah, and that's when he goes into his night book and tries to find it. And I like how he acts the knight casually and dragging him mid-battle, like how they're like, have you seen his library card? And then right after he finished asking, they go right back into it, which is really, really funny. And then we finally have Gil's dinosaur book. And then at first the Tyrannosaurus Rex, he thinks that it's chasing him and Bubble Puppy, but actually when they finally stop to talk to him, when he finally stopped to talk to Gil and Bubble Puppy, he's like, "Excuse me, is your name Gil?" He's like, "Yeah." And that's when he said, "I found this. I think this belongs to you." And that was just so sweet and adorable. It was just so sweet. That's why library cards are good to have your name on it. Most definitely. And he finally finds his library book. And it turns out that he's so happy that he found his library book in the dinosaur book that he wants to check it out again. And it's saying that it's his new favorite book. And then all the Bubble Guppies finally get to have their own library cards too. They finally get the chance to. And then we have our last Molly Gil segment. Molly saying that she finally got to check out a book. And Gil also got to check out a new book as well, which is called The Day at the Circus. Mind you, the episode after our next one will be all about the circus. And then he's like, you would think at this time, he finally got a book about nothing about water. But he was wrong again when an elephant trunk came out of the book and squirted Gil with water. And his face at the end was just says it all, like, I've had enough. I need a break. I've been trying to read all day. I can't read without having water shoot up in my face. My poor guy, man. But overall, this episode was really good. It was really good. I know I talked about my troubles, my troubles with literature at the beginning of this review, but when it comes to this episode, I try to put all my my hard problems beside myself and like really appreciate like people that don't struggle with what I have, can enjoy what I can't seem to enjoy myself, which is really sweet, which is what I like, I like that very, very much. So I'm gonna give this episode an 8. It was really good, really solid, really solid. I think this episode was good. It was really good. So that's why it's giving an 8. So tune in to our next episode as we will be reviewing season 2, episode 11, The Beach Ball. See you all next time.